Who believed in you before you believed in yourself? For me, it was the women who saw something in me when I was just starting out. 20 years and 5 businesses later, I'm still here because they lifted me up when I needed it most. I'm Tanya Gomez, and this is She Shapes Tomorrow, brought to you by Tanya Gomez Consulting and Kismet, proudly sponsored by SN Services. Every episode, we sit down with women who are changing lives, building communities, and raising up the next generation. Women who'll remind you what's possible when we stop trying to do it alone. This year's International Women's Day theme is Give to Gain, and these stories will show you exactly what that looks like. Let's get into it. Welcome to She Shapes Tomorrow, the International Women's Day podcast. I'm your host, Tanya Gomez, and today I'm joined by Lily Grubb. Lily is the CEO of LGO Therapy Group, a leader dedicated to the ripple effect of human potential. With a professional foundation rooted in high-level HR and a deep commitment to therapeutic excellence, Lily has built a career centered on enabling others to succeed. Whether she is supporting a child gaining independence through therapy or mentoring an emerging professional into leadership, her work is defined by building confidence, clarity, and capability. Welcome, Lily. It's so lovely to have you join us today.
Tanya, thank you so much for having me. I appreciate being here with you today and sharing some of my journey.
Yeah, thank you. I really was looking forward to talking to you about like the moments that made you the person that you are today. And you said that your leadership journey was profoundly shaped by someone called Nicole, who balanced accountability with genuine care. Tell us a little bit about Nicole and what the most important thing she did for you in providing an environment where you felt safe to make mistakes.
I get really emotional talking about Nicole, so you're going to have to excuse me. I apologize because she's the first person in a workspace that truly nurtured all parts of my personality. She was the first person that really tried to understand how I received support and how I envisioned to give support. And we talk about it all the time, and she always says to me, "Oh, it's not true. You just kind of did what you did." But she doesn't understand the impact she had by simply providing a safe space, by simply providing structure that was easy to function within. So anytime that we had situations arise, she wasn't the type of leader to step in and take over, which was really important. She would step back, and then she would ensure that I would have the structure and the tools to do my job and to do it successfully. And she was always great like that. And she had this rule, which is the 1-2-1 rule. And she would always say to me, "I want you to come to me with an issue with 2 potential solutions, and then also your recommendation." And what I didn't understand then was that she was trying to understand how I rationalize and problem solve. Because after working together for 12 months, she then no longer asked that. She automatically knew how I was thinking. She automatically knew what skills she had to develop within me, but it was never a conversation of, "You couldn't do this, so we're going to do that." It was simply, "I know you can do it because we worked on this particular project and you actually problem solved that with XYZ." So she constantly used examples of previous successes I had had in my role in order to set me up for the next success with what we were doing and what was ahead. So she was very impactful in providing that environment.
That's a really beautiful leader who's able to figure out what you are adding and then how she can continue to help you to grow, as opposed to seeing it as, oh, there's a deficit here, or she hasn't done this, really focusing on what you do well. And I guess guiding you to make those decisions. It's almost like when you do maths homework, rather than just coming to the answer, getting someone to show you they're working so that you can go, "Oh, right, that's the process they've been through. And that's why that came out that way. If it was, the right way or the not so right way, that's how they got to that answer." So I think that's really powerful, especially if someone young learning in a new role.
Particularly because she was a young leader herself. When I started there, she was only a couple of years older than me. And I would just stand back and observe the way she would protect us as a team, the way that she would also talk about us. So people would say to me, oh, like if the two of us had arrived for a meeting, people would say, oh, is Nicole your boss? And Nicole would turn around and say, we're co-workers.
Oh, that's nice.
And I said to her, but that's odd. You are my boss. She goes, yeah, I'm your boss on paper. That is true. I have different level of responsibilities. I have different level of expectations to you, but we're equal. It's just that we have different pressures. And she continued to create that environment for us. I mean, I came for a 6-month contract and I was there for 9.5 years.
Wow.
So I think that speaks volumes with the kind of environment that she created for our team with that type of attitude and outlook. And she just wouldn't allow us to have any type of mindset but that. We're a team, we have different responsibilities, and everybody has to understand everybody's job. So should somebody not have a good day, should somebody struggle personally or professionally, you have a whole entire team that can step in and do your job. So you can then go away and take care of yourself and then come back stronger for the team. So she was incredible in just being herself, really.
Yeah.
Which is special.
How do you think that's shaped the kind of leader that you are with your team?
Oh, it's absolutely changed even the way that I look at, let's say, personality differences, the way I recruit, the way what I look for in interviews. It's shaped it completely in also having a mindset of solution versus problem. So if we have an issue, let's say an issue arises in the team, we have a 70% neurodiverse team. So a lot of the staff need nurturing in different ways. So she's really taught me to understand the love language that people speak. What is their way of receiving and understanding support, and what is their way of showing that support? So that's shaped it a lot. I do that very much with our team, and I always look for ways where they can be heard, where they feel that they also contribute to decisions. It's not a matter of we just need to have this done, just get it done. It's what do you think? How would you look for outcomes in this? How would you measure this to be successful? And then how can we put steps to lead up to that? Because I'm very much kind of a big picture thinker. So I make sure I surround myself with very detailed people. And I very much encourage them to bring me back to the processes, because I completely understand that that is not something I'm strong in. So I will always say to them, how do you see this? And they will tell me, and I think, wow, what a great way to get to where I'm thinking we need to be. But then look at all these other things we would have missed if I didn't have your input. So because of the way that Nicole nurtured me, I ensure that I nurture the team the exact same way, professionally and personally as well. I make sure to really be there for them personally when they hit their milestones, and we celebrate it and we make a big deal and all that kind of stuff, because, you know, you're at work so much, you know, within your week. You want to feel like you're sharing your successes everywhere.
Yeah. It's really interesting. And I guess it sounds very much like it's a capacity building journey to building up staff. And you also said that you see a direct parallel between children gaining independence through therapy and then also a professional stepping into leadership. And I guess that is that capacity building lens that you're looking through, of actually looking at, right, this staff member is learning these skills, developing, growing, and you're supporting that kind of the same way that you do that with children through the therapy journey.
100%. One of the big things that I've really worked on myself as a leader is to understand myself and to understand what are my pressure points, and to understand what am I communicating well, what am I not communicating well. One of the things Nicole would always say, if anything ever falls over, she would always look at herself first, and I've really taken that on. So if something doesn't quite go as we expect, I will always look at myself first. How did I communicate it? Did I communicate it clearly, or was it something in a rush where I did a voice to text and I sent it to the group and to the team? Did they really need me to sit down with them to go through it and we map it? Because we map a lot of the stuff for the kids. So we've almost gotten into the routine of when we're making decisions, we're mapping it together. We're understanding what are we doing, why are we doing it, does it align with our core values, does it align with our purpose? So I always, whenever things kind of don't go the way that we want them to, it's the first thing I look at is how I have communicated as a leader, and then what skills and what also tools have I provided the team in order to be able to meet that expectation. So I think that's a big one. Same as our kids. If our kids aren't hitting the goals, we need to look at us. How are we delivering it? Is it the program? Is it too hard? Because I think the most important thing that I took away from Nicole was you cannot thrive in an environment where people don't assume you have capacity and ability to do a job.
Yeah.
So even with our kids, sometimes when our kids come to us, they have been to other therapy support services. So they've already been through such a big journey. So then if they're coming to us and we again are now starting from scratch, oh, he can't do this or she can't do that, why would you even try? The barriers are already there. So one of the big things I do between, the team as well as our kids, including my own kids, is assuming competence. You can do this. You've got this. I'm going to help you. We're going to figure it out. And I'm very open and transparent, to say, I'm not sure that I know how to do it, but we are going to go find a way. And then we're going to see what's going to work best to get what we're working towards and the outcomes that we're looking to get. So I think that is really, really important to have that kind of open and honest baseline and kind of environment with everybody around you.
Yeah. It's there's a famous quote that is, whether you believe you can or believe you can't, you're right. That idea of it's really about mindset and attitude. And I get told often by my husband that I'm too optimistic about things, that I'm too positive. He's much more critical than I am at things and much more risk adverse, but I'm an eternal optimist. I kind of feel like, I'm just going to keep moving towards what I want to do, towards my goals. And even if I don't reach them, it's not actually even about that. It's actually about the process and the person that you become in the pursuit of the goal. And I think that is one of the traits of a successful business owner, is that you have to kind of be stupidly optimistic, because if you're too realistic about the outcome, you probably would never start your own business, because there's just so many risks and so many unknowns and so many things that could go wrong, that if you weren't always focusing on, we'll find a way, we'll make our way through this, you probably wouldn't have the courage to take that leap.
Oh, absolutely not. Even with me starting Little Grubs, the idea behind it was I needed a community for my child. I needed where he was surrounded by other kids that had the same interests, that didn't necessarily have the ability to communicate verbally and so forth. And that is how I started. And I remember when I started the journey, I was very much in the trenches with my parents. And we were talking about it, and they constantly said to me, oh, Lily, I have friends who actually are very wealthy and they couldn't get this off the ground, or they couldn't do that. And I'm with you, Tanya. You have to just believe in the unbelievable, because when I would take my son to speech therapy, we had 12 speech therapists, just to give you a bit of context. And not a one of them assumed that he was competent to even engage by making eye contact or by showing shared interest in playing with something, even to just copy, let's say, body movements. If somebody said to him, touch your nose, touch your head, him not being able to do that, and they would just dismiss him immediately. And I thought to myself, wow, he's so aware, because I could see his shoulders would drop. His head would drop at 3 years old and he would walk away. So then I would be like, no, I can see, Mum knows you can do it. You're not going to trick Mum this time. I know. And then all of a sudden you see him walking a bit taller. And then even though he couldn't verbally communicate, still for quite some time, because we had to get to the core of that, it was that assuming the competence. You can do it. We've got it, because you have all of us behind you. And because you have all of us behind you, there is no way that there's any other option but success. It just might look different. Because the way I started Little Grubs looks completely different to how the LGO group looks today. But I didn't have a set mindset of what it needed to look like. I just had a sense of purpose for it. And then I just navigated the journey and almost allowed the kids to show us what it needed to look like. And all the services we've added in the time we've added based on the kids showing us that there was a gap. They couldn't get it outside of us. So then we have brought it in and built it for them. So I think that optimism is everything. And, you know, one of the first things that I saw when he was diagnosed at 2 years old is a big banner that said she believed she could, and so she did. So
Yeah.
I bought it.
Yeah, I actually had the same thing up in my
Yeah.
office for many years. I don't have it anymore. When we moved house, it broke, but that was the first thing I bought for my office when I started my third business, and I put it right above my head. And it was funny. People would say the funniest things. They'd come in and say, "Why would you need that?" Or, "Of course, Tanya has that on their wall." It's funny that everyone had a comment about my picture. That was only for me to, on those hard moments, to look up at and be like, of course I can do this, you know, in those moments where things aren't going to plan and you're not in that positive mindset for that moment, being able to remember that, you know, you've gotten through harder things than this, and there will be harder things than this, and you've done okay so far, and just keep moving forwards. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. You made a conscious shift from feeling solely responsible to building a shared capability. Tell me about the hardest part of letting go of that individual weight, and how that looks with your team.
For me, the hardest part of shifting the sole responsibility to more sharing it within the team was it came from a place of guilt. And we don't talk about that enough. I feel in my experience, we really don't talk about, as women in particular, I mean, I can speak only for myself, but the way that I had come through my childhood and then my youth and my adulthood was feeling responsible to fix everything, to fix everyone. And when, you know, when it came to having the responsibility and understanding that, wow, this is a lot on me, the pressure points are really intense, I need to now go out to the team. How do I communicate this? And I wanted to do it in a way that didn't overwhelm them. And I wanted to do it in a way that they understood I will be there with them to support them and build their skill set so they're able to take the reins and lead confidently with those new responsibilities. So it was something that I actually worked in counseling on with my counselor. So I'm a really big fan of mental health and making sure that we look after our mental health first and foremost. So I call her my mental housekeeper. So I say to my counselor, I need some mental housekeeping because this is what I want to do. But from an emotional standpoint, this is how I feel. And she said something that was so simple yet so profound to me. And she said, Lily, when you decide that somebody shouldn't have this responsibility because you feel bad, you don't allow them the opportunity to show you where their boundary of growth is. And I just remember going, wow, can you say that again? So I can then visualize what that looks like in my head. So then it really changed my mindset in the way that I would approach delegating different responsibilities that I was holding because I felt bad. I felt guilty. And once I started doing it with the team and I sat with them individually and we reviewed their individual professional development plans to ensure that they understood what that extra responsibility would look like and to help us understand what level of training they would need, or if they would sit with me, or if we needed external courses or whatever the case may be. Each and every staff member turned around and said to me, "Thank you so much. We have been dying to have more responsibility."
Yeah. Yeah.
So that shift was very special for me. And, you know, then what my counselor had said to me really rang true in those moments where I thought, wow, I thought holding on, I was doing right by my staff and I was not burdening them, but really that wasn't the reality.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting that you talk about the guilt of responsibility. I guess for me, I've had big teams and I've had small teams and I've had no teams. And for me, I always worry about the loss of control. I worry about me handing it over to somebody else and them not doing it as good as me, or that it's going to impact something down the line. And for me, I realized that for me not to hand things over to my staff was really also a lot around my trust in them, and that it was showing them that I wasn't trustful, or that I mistrusted them, and that it gave them the impression that I didn't think that they were capable. When I started to really go, okay, you've got this, and left that with them and trusted that they would be able to do it, it gave them the ability to step up, to feel proud of themselves, to demonstrate their skills more. And sometimes maybe there was a little bit too much pressure, or we had too many things going on at once. But being able to then have them say, this is where I'm at. Like I've capped out now. Like I actually do need help there, and leaving them to guide it a little bit. It took me quite a while to be comfortable with that. In various organizations, I have a very small team now, so it's not a problem anymore. But my first business I started when I was 21, and I had 1,000 staff before I sold that business. And then I've had businesses of hundreds and businesses with 20, 30, 40 staff. And now I have a very small team of about 6 of us. So yeah, it's interesting. And my staff at the moment have all been with me a very long time. So one's 16 years, one's 9 years, one's 6 years, one's 4 years. I think the youngest is 4 years. So at this point, I completely trust that they know what they're doing. And the communication's very open. They're very much like, no, Tanya, you're moving too quickly, or no, we can't do that and this and that. My problem. I always try to do too many things at once. But it's taken me a long time to find a team that's happy to give me that level of communication around, I found in other businesses, maybe you saying that it was the leader first. I do think that when I was younger, my leadership skills weren't as advanced, and I didn't communicate things well, and I thought that micromanaging was okay, and I thought that I was helping in some of my strategies. But as I became older, I really was able to reflect back and think about the different ways to lead people. And you talked about love languages, the different ways that everyone actually needs to be not just led, but I guess just communicated with.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, that's a huge responsibility. 1,000 employees at 21 years old. That is enormous. And I think what's important is to, I love how you're reflecting to say, well, this is how it was for me, and then this is how I developed, because a lot of people don't do it. Because I worked for a lot of people in very high level positions before I went over to Nicole, for example. And I always thought loyalty came through fear. Fear of losing your job, fear of not meeting the deadline. I had one particular boss. Wow, she was so difficult for me to have any success in. She was older than me, so I was hoping through her leadership she would teach me skills. But it just wasn't the case. She was very micromanaging, but at the same time not giving me anything. So her expectation would be to do tasks, but I would have, and I was new to that particular part of the role, and I was very clear about that in my interview. But there was no, like, she would call me at 1 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
And she'd be like, I finished my yoga session. Where's the position description? You're like, what's happened? It's 1 o'clock in the morning. So after her, I couldn't commit to a permanent position. I went in working with Nicole as a contractor for 6 months because I had such mental trauma of not being able to do my job, of not being good enough, of not having capacity. Yet there was nobody to show me that you build capacity and you build it this way, and then it's supported through communication, it's supported through successful outcomes. And that, I think, is the big thing that I took from Nicole that I try to do with my team now. And, one of the things I say to my team, they've been with me a long time too, but I say to them, they always have people trying to poach them. Always. And I think that's such a big compliment. And I always say to them, I'm grateful that you've told me, because it just goes to show that you're comfortable enough to know that we can have a conversation about it. But I always encourage them to go for the interview, because that's another thing that I learned through my HR journey was, if, people will be with you for as long as they're meant to. And I don't want people to be with me forever. I want to be able to build their own skills, like our kids. I want to build their skills so then they can go out into the world and make their mark. That to me is such a big accomplishment in what that I've been a little part of their journey in that success.
Yeah.
So I always say to them, go for the interview, go and see what's on offer, because when you're here and we have hard days, or when, you know, the kids are just, everyone's kicking off and we're trying to navigate everyone and we're trying to regulate everybody, I want you to know that there's no place you'd rather be. I want you to know what else is out there for you, and you've chosen this by your choice. So the loyalty comes through trust. It doesn't come through fear. So I think that's a really big one that I've taken away, but I take my hat off to you. I don't think I could have done that at 21 with 1,000 employees. It's a big task.
I didn't do it well in the beginning. I'm sure there's many people that can attest for that. But yes, no. What you said there about like the mindset that you have there around the building capacity in your staff is quite unusual in the disability space. I see a lot of times that people are very reluctant to build capacity in their staff because they're worried about them leaving. They're worried about, well, if I give them that training, I'm going to have to pay for the next person to have that training. And it loosens the human side a little bit, and it breaks everything down into a cost calculation into, you know, okay, well, I've just spent $1,000 on training that staff member, or 100 hours, whatever it is. And if I'm going to go and do all of that work and then they're going to go and leave, then I have to do that again. And you can see that lack of investment in staff. And I'm an NGS auditor, so when I go in to do audits of people, I think, and maybe I'm biased because I'm a teacher by background, but in my head, most of the non-conformities is actually a lack of education. Like if you break down why actually it's non-conformance, is because the staff didn't know the requirement, or the staff didn't know the process, or sometimes they don't have enough resources. But most of the time it comes down to the education piece is lacking. And I feel like that's because there's a mindset around we're going to hoard the information for just the important people, or just the people we trust, because there is quite a lot in the NGO sector of people being with providers and then just taking their clients and setting up their own business next door. And there's quite a lot of competitiveness and nastiness. Like it's especially lately, it's quite a cutthroat little industry now. It seems like that hasn't been your experience, and that you don't buy into that mindset. You know, you seem to be able to rise above that.
I just think, oh, I got goosebumps. Thank you so much for saying that. That's really special, because that's exactly how I think about it. I understand. So especially in HR, if we had a person resign, that would cost us around $15,000 by the time you bring someone else in, replace, all that kind of stuff. So I'm very aware of that side of it. But the way that I look at it, living the life as well as a parent who has children with neurodiverse neurotypes, I always say it's going to make me emotional, because I love my team. I love them so much. And I couldn't think of anyone better to compete against. And if they go and open their own business, I always want it to be one where I celebrate them, because it's inevitable. It's life. I want them to be hungry. And then that also means that there's more children out there getting the best care. Because we can't help every child. We simply cannot help every child. And I'm a parent living it with the fear of what's going to happen when I'm not here. So I want to build them. That is the mindset that is in my head. I want them to be amazing. I want them to work within the team. Absolutely. So I do my best to nurture them. I do my best to create a great work environment where they don't want to leave, but I also allow for a space of honest conversation. And I say to them openly, in 5 years' time, I want you in your own practice. I don't, because if you're here with me all the time, you're eventually going to lose the passion and you're eventually going to leave the industry. What does that mean for the kids? What does that mean for the youth, for the adults that are living with this every day?
Yeah.
So I think I'm very aware of that side of it, but it's probably the last on my list. And I truly believe that whoever's meant to be a part of your journey nobody can take them from you. So if they choose to leave, that is simply because their journey with me has completed and they're onto other things. And I would rather continue to have a great friendship where, you know, we had an OT. He was with us for a very long time, qualified, and went to work with somebody else. And he came back to me and he said, Lily, I want to come back and work here. And I said to him, why? What is it? And he goes, I just love the environment. Okay. But the problem for me, Tanya, was it wasn't, I love the job and the kids is where my passion is. That's what I needed above all else. So for me, it was easy to take him back. He's trained, he can hit the ground running. So logically, from a business point of view, he ticked all the boxes, but that is not what I want my kids to feel when they come for therapy.
Yeah.
I want my kids to feel so much compassion from us and so much of there's nowhere else I'd rather be but here with you. Because I think kids, particularly neurodiverse kids, are very intuitive and they are able to measure someone very quickly. So anyway, we had a long conversation. I said to him, you know, you're incredible. I would love to have you as a competitor, but I don't know that your heart is, where it needs to be here in order to continue on with the team. So after much reflection, he messaged me a month later and he said, Lily, I've become a flight attendant. Travel is really where my passion is, and that's what I want to do. So it's about nurturing him, and now I'm watching him thrive. So that's about 2 years ago now. I'm watching him thrive. He's going up the ranks as a steward and he's living overseas. That is filling his cup.
Yeah.
And we have now an incredible OT that has come in his position, that has even been able to connect with the children and deliver for the children even better than what he did. So I think that has to be at the core of it. And I think that's what we're losing in the industry, because I see it as a parent going to our external therapies. You see it. Nobody even talks to each other, yet they're a team.
Yeah.
So I'm like, how are you a team? You're next door to each other and you don't even know, like, my son's goals, yet I'm paying you to be a team and work on his goals. But they're so fearful of losing those billable hours. And I think that really comes from leadership and the culture you create. Because we have certainly recruited people that have been on that mindset that we've had to let go because they did not fit the culture. And the culture is probably the most important thing to me within our work environment, because you can teach skills, but you can't teach compassion. You can't teach to believe in somebody. You need to be that person, like us, the optimism.
Yeah.
People looked at me and were like, what do you mean you think Liam's going to achieve all these things, Liam being my son? And I'm like, just you wait. As long as he's given the opportunity, he is going to absolutely smash those opportunities. And here we are today. You know, I do homeschooling with him. He's thriving. He's doing a mainstream curriculum and he's getting A's. So yes, we're simplifying the curriculum, but it's still mainstream. It's no longer an individual learning plan. And the first time I said that to his head of inclusion, she was a bit like, oh, I said, because he's bored. He's genuinely bored. And she was like, okay, well, let's give it a go. And he's thriving. This is his second year on a mainstream curriculum, delivering A's, because he's really enjoying the way he's being taught. Not so much what he's being taught, but in the way that it's being delivered to him. So I think that's really true, whether it's you're delivering therapy, whether you are supporting staff, or whether you're trying to grow the business.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that that's really amazing. I really like, and I think in many ways, so I started my life as a working in childcare centres, then I became an early childhood teacher. And it was one boy for me who had cerebral palsy, who made me work with children with disability. And he's similar to how you described your son, as far as nobody believed he was going to, outside of his mother 150% believed that he was going to achieve amazing things, but they had said that he was not going to walk, and they had said that he wasn't going to communicate, and he didn't take his first steps till he was about 8. But he can run now. He's like,
wow.
He can do. He's 22 now. That's how old I am. As he was 2 or 3 when I met him. And I still keep in touch with his mum, but yeah, he was similar, and the belief that his mum had, and she found every tiny little piece of funding. There was no NJS back then. Every tiny piece of funding that he could possibly get. I was doing my diploma of childcare at the time, and she found this tiny little bucket of funding to get me to be one-on-one with him for 6 hours a day, something like that. And that she was just remarkable at his advocacy and finding ways. When he first got a wheelchair, they couldn't actually fit the wheelchair in her tiny little car. She was actually 17 when she had him, so she was very young. The husband was the boyfriend. The dad wasn't in the picture. Her family and her were estranged, so she was raising this quite disabled child by herself, very young, and she couldn't fit the wheelchair inside her little Mazda or whatever it was. And she actually fundraised until she could get a car that would fit his wheelchair. And there's not many people that I've met that are that resilient, that 1,000,000% knew the capability that her son had, even though nobody did. And I think that was a really big turning point for me, to think about not just judging somebody on their skill level today, but actually looking at their, I don't know the word, it's going to sound a bit woo-woo, but looking at their spirit and their determination and their resilience. And this little boy is incredibly resilient, as is his mum. But it reminds me of you talking about your son and the journey, and no one believed that he was going to walk, that he was going to, do anything with his life, and you could see that when people greeted him, they felt sorry for him, and they felt sorry for his mum, and his mum was not having that for 1 minute. She was just not having that. And it's been amazing watching the amazing life that he leads, and the independence he's built, and the life he's built as an adult. It's it's quite a success story. And I don't know actually that he was born any more capable than any other child. It was really the belief of his family, and the mum's determination to not settle for anything less than what he was going to be able to achieve.
100%. And that's incredible. Thank you for sharing that, because that really feeds my soul. A lot of the time, I think we get so caught up in the world of, like what you were saying, it's really negative. It's very, they can't do this, they can't do that. And then to hear that as well, that it's happening it really brings me so much joy, because I always sit there and I think, what about the kids left behind? What about the kids left behind? So you sharing that story will now sit in my head when that doubt comes up and that fear comes up. Hey, they have incredible parents. Look what this lady did. And that will now be my reference point in my head to come back and outside of the autism world and intellectual disability world to say, there's incredible parents everywhere. And there truly, truly is. I just feel like they just get focused and they just keep moving forward. And that's sometimes hard to do, but you have no other choice. What options are there really for what you want the outcomes to be?
And I think it comes back to what you said about staff and those people being on your journey for a reason, for a time period. I think that potentially it's quite challenging for that mum at 17 to have a child with cerebral palsy. But I think that she has found that journey very much her mission in life to change the outcome for her son. And she became a primary school teacher and was a principal. I think she is now a principal, and so she then helps other children also. But I think there are some really special people in this world who realize the impact that they can make if they just don't give up, and they feel that, it's the kind of that idea of when that passion that you spoke of and that mission come together, that really there is no other outcome here than to actually make this work. I think special needs parents, are quite blessed to have the opportunity to, I guess all parents really, but, with a child with special needs, you have that opportunity also to make that mark. And I guess as a therapist also, and me as an early childhood teacher, there's nothing more rewarding for me than to work with a child around whatever their goal might be, 3-word sentences or writing their name or taking their first steps or whatever it might be, and actually playing a part in that is very, very much good for your heart and your soul. And it's a blessing, I think, to be able to see how rewarding that is and be part of those moments in someone else's life outside of your own family.
100%. And do you know, for me, I believe early childhood educators are the secret heroes. They are absolute superheroes. To be able to do the therapy that I do, first I had to do a diploma in early childhood and education. And I couldn't kind of understand it because one sat under one framework and the other sat under a different one. But when I started it, it became really clear to me very quickly that early childhood educators are the only ones educated in cognitive milestones.
Yeah.
The only ones. So for 18 months during the diploma, that's all I learnt about is developmental milestones from all 5 areas of development. And then I understood, I thought, wow, this is so special, because let me tell you, in speech therapy, as far as I know, whenever we interview speech therapists and the speech therapists we have had in our journey, when I have asked them about developmental milestones, when I have said to them, what assessment have you used for Liam for the baseline, just so we understand where his developmental gaps lie, they were like, oh yeah, we don't do that.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, so we're expecting him to develop speech ability, speech skills, yet we don't know what part of his speech has broken down. Where has it stopped developing spontaneously? Like, let's say a typical peer. So I wear my educator badge on all my uniforms because I wear that badge really proudly, and I have so much love. We go into childcares where we are invited and welcome to support the educators in any capacity, and we don't charge for that because you really, when you nurture, they are really the front line for our children, and I feel like somebody needs to be brave enough to step up and nurture them and give them that support that they feel that they're receiving, and that's empowering them to then go on and support the children. But yeah, that's very special to me. So, and then same as occupational therapy, I'm in my 3rd year of occupational therapy as a degree. I haven't learned anything about developmental milestones, nothing. I've learned about lifespans. Yeah. And they're just very general, but not in depth like an educator. And I think for us at LGO, when people come on, an educator qualification is the minimum.
There you go. Yeah.
Because people will say to us, what about the disability stuff? I'm like, but that I can send them off to do that.
Yeah.
They need to understand the cognitive developmental milestones, so then they understand our programs.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. I've always thought that having an early childhood background really helps me with the disability side, even though there's only a couple of units around disability within the diploma. And even in my teaching degree, there wasn't a whole lot about disability. I chose some electives specifically around autism and some other things. I think I was in my master's degree, but at my undergrad, there wasn't a lot. But I found that it really helped me with disability because you look at the whole person. You don't just look at cognitive or just look at speech or language. You look at what does this whole person need? And whenever I hear someone talking about a person by their disability, oh, they're this or they're that, I think it always brings me back to, well, that's one identifying label. It's almost like calling them a female, but being a female doesn't stop the fact that I also have cognitive skills and language skills and a sense of self and all those development areas. And I think it's when I talk to other childcare background people, a lot of them have moved into disability, and that's a really lovely skill to be, and even working with older people to be able to have a look at the whole person. What does the whole person need as a goal? It's not just we're learning to do 3 steps independently, or we're learning to, what if someone's got in their plan living independently, there's so many elements of living independently. It's not just getting in a house and being able to buy food. There's so many skills there that whole person needs for that experience to actually work for them. So I think
like even sequencing an instruction, for example, So what I was not aware of until I started studying in early childhood and education, me asking Liam to go and put his shoes on is actually a 7-step instruction.
Yeah.
In my head, it's just simply him turning up, grabbing shoes and putting them on. But it really helped me understand breaking down the sequence of
Yeah.
that instruction. That
Yeah.
is 7 steps for him to achieve.
Mm.
And that's only if he picks the shoes that you actually want him to do, unless you use more specifics and things like that. So I really love it. I always talk about it any opportunity I can, because I really do think not enough respect and appreciation is placed on educators and teachers. I know for my kids' teachers, I will always say to the educators, teachers, principal, deputies, you know, we're co-parenting. So if you need something from me, let me know and I'm there. If you enforce a rule and you need that to be the way, you let me know, so then I can provide consistency at home for generalization. I'm not going to question you why mobile phones are not allowed. That is your rule. I respect it and I will ensure to enforce it, and then also try to provide supports at home. So when we get in the car at drop off, I will say to my kids, pack your phone away. Because I know the expectation is once my daughter gets on the school grounds, there is no phones. And I think that's a little bit lost in my experience. And I think that really needs to come back, that value and respect for they're raising our kids.
Yeah.
30 hours a week, our kids are in these settings because of the way life is. So we need to, yeah, I think I could talk to you about it all day, but
Yeah.
I'm very passionate about it.
Yeah, it's come a long way since I first started working in childcare a very long time ago. When I first started working in childcare, it was very much like disability support work is today. There was no minimum qualification, and we were kind of seen as babysitters and nice ladies who played with kids all day.
Yeah.
And I think introducing mandatory qualifications was probably the best thing that I saw as far as the professionalism of the sector. And it also meant that you didn't, because what used to happen is you'd have childcare workers that would do an early childhood degree and they would go to primary school because they weren't getting the pay or recognition as a teacher inside early childhood. But once there was mandatory qualifications and you had Cert 3s, diplomas and ECTs, then you actually had people who saw it as a career. And I kind of feel in many ways that's where the disability space is. There's lots of people who don't see it as a career. They see it as something that almost like Uber driving. Oh, I'm going to be an independent support worker overnight. And, you know, I'll do my real job during the day and I will do, you know, work in a still house at night or something, as opposed to actually seeing it as a career, as something that's worth the investment to study, to learn, to an art, right? To actually refine your practice and your skill. I really think there's a lot of room in the disability space and to become a professional sector. And, you know, I call providers NGS providers also because that's the language that we use. But really, we need to rename the sector as, you know, whatever, the care sector, the human-centered sector, I don't know, something else that actually recognizes that we are professionals supporting outcomes. We're not just people taking, you know, looking after people with disability. We're actually involved in improving lives and improving outcomes. I'm hoping it's coming. I'm hoping, you know, over the next 10 years, we see a shift towards that. But I don't think in my head, it didn't take as long as I thought it would. I actually never thought we would be, as a teacher, you'd be recognized in the way that you are kind of today. And you might not think it's enough, but it's come a long way from childminders to educators. Even the terminology educators is a long way from babysitters or what we were before. Healthcare workers, I guess.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, I've gone off on tangent a little bit, but it's been a lovely conversation. Back on track, the theme for International Women's Day in 2026 is Give to Gain. What does Give to Gain mean to you in the context of your life?
So Give to Gain for me is, I think a lot of the time in the disability space, I don't want, particularly if we're going to refer to my kids first, my personal life, I don't want them to get off the mindset of people always have to help me. So I feel like they need to understand I need help and I'm open to receiving that help, but also how can I give back to my community? So I think when we're blessed with so much support, when we're blessed with incredible team members and therapists, friends, all of that kind of stuff, it's important to then look at how do we give back? And that's also where a lot of our foundation came from. We really wanted to give back to a community that is believed in us as a support service, providing that support. So I think creating a culture of where we are open to working and developing great things and receiving successes to that, how do we now give back and also help the others up that are coming up through those channels? How can we be there for them? So for me, giving back is very much like that, which again comes back to the staff when they get to a point where they do want to go out on their own. I really see it as me giving back to them because they've given so much of their time, of their expertise, and of themselves to me and my dreams and what I've been building. So that's basically how I look at that.
When you look at the woman you are today, what would you say to the younger version of yourself who was just starting to navigate leadership?
Oh my God, now you're going to make me cry. It was really hard. If I go back to when Liam was diagnosed, it was such a hard time in my life. I really didn't even know I had the skills or capability. What Nicole had instilled in me, I didn't really know was there. I wasn't aware. He was diagnosed in June. My mother-in-law was diagnosed with terminal cancer in March, and then Liam in June. There was a lot going on, so I didn't believe in myself back then at all. All I kept saying is, if this is my purpose, if this is what I'm supposed to be doing, then please send me people to help me because I don't know what to do. So without sounding a bit woo, as we were saying before, but that is literally, it's that faith of I'm going to have to figure out my way. So I didn't have a set way of leadership per se. All I knew was that whoever was going to come in and help me build this environment where people, children, youth, and adults could thrive, that I would be forever grateful. And as a leader, I will always show up at my best version to give them 110% back. But I had no official plan really in the beginning of it all. I had more of how am I going to do this? How am I going to do this? And I think it's really important to be honest about that, because sometimes when people seem so together, it puts other people off that may want to come through the ranks and try different things.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think any plan that I've ever had has never really started off as a plan, more of an idea or a gut feeling or a feeling that I could do it better, or it's not okay as it is, or like a moment of almost desperation for something else and going, look, either the thing that I've tried isn't working, I need to try something else, or, well, if someone else can't do this, then gonna just have to give it a go. It hasn't really been, I'm going to do A, then B, then C, then D. But I think a lot of people get that impression after talking to me, is that, oh, she's got all these ideas and she's got the whole plan. It's like, no, I just try a whole lot of things and some of them work some of the time. I
think that really is the mindset. And I think that's amazing, because the more we talk about it, the more it normalizes that really a lot of things start that way. I was exactly the same. It's like you're describing my journey. I had no idea. It came from a place of need and desperation, and it came from a place of people not giving him opportunities. So I had to find a way to make that for him.
Yeah. But for me, I've always just tried to solve a problem at a time and go, someone tells me a problem or I see a problem, or, and then I just go, okay, can I fix that problem? Maybe. And if it's a maybe, then I'm just going to at least try. And a lot of things haven't worked, but the ones that I have worked have solved that problem. And once I've solved that problem, it's like, okay, now what's the next problem that's worthwhile my time, my effort, my energy, that's gonna help people, that's going to, what can I do here to solve this problem for someone? And for me, that's kind of a fulfilling way of doing it. It's not really about a business goal or a financial goal, or, some people talk about, even my business coach, she laughs at me quite often that, I'm like really hard to do a BHAG. What's your BHAG? Inspire 10,000 people. It's like, I can't, that's not motivating for me. I just want to solve this problem and I really want to pinpoint the exact thing I'm going to do to solve that problem and smash that out of the park. And if I can do that, then I'll find another problem and I'll smash that problem. And lots of people will benefit, but it's kind of in my head, it's much more relatable to be solving a problem for me and the world and for other people than to worry about a 5-year goal or a 5-year plan. And, you know, that doesn't seem as exciting or motivating for me to waste my energy on making X number of money or, you know, those metrics that just seem too removed from my actual experience.
Yeah, they're so systemized. And really, how do we know where we're going to be in 5 years?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Especially in today's world.
Yeah.
You've said that women are brave enough to be honest and raw. What message do you want women listening to this episode to carry with them about their power of being authentically themselves?
I think that when you're brave to be true to who you are at heart, you never have to worry about any room that you walk into. And what I mean by that is when Nicole and I used to go to meetings, or when I have to go and have meetings with parents, when you know who you are at your core and you're comfortable for people to see that, you never have to worry about anything. You know, I feel like a lot of the time in the HR section, you know, we were in a very male-dominated environment, so emotions weren't allowed. And I was explaining to you earlier how my nervous system, the way that I regulate, sometimes I do get emotional and I cry. And that is just because of the visual thinking. I can see things and sometimes I feel them as if they were back then with how I was feeling, and it puts me back in that headspace. And I really used to try and suppress that. But now I've come to understand through working with my therapist that that is just a part of core of who I am. It's not someone I'm trying to be. It's not something I can turn on or off. Sometimes I don't even know it's going to happen until it's happening. And then I'm thinking, my head is going, stop, everyone's awkward, stop. But then having the courage to be honest and say, look, I'm really sorry. This is actually just how my nervous system regulates, and I'm actually not upset. This is actually coming from a place of love and gratitude. Allowing any kind of honesty with how you process things and how you present, I think, is really important. And I feel like in a world prior to disability, I used to shy away from that and mask it a lot. I used to have to turn up, have all the numbers be like what you were just saying with the 5-year plan, very systemized, and it just wasn't human.
Yeah.
It truly wasn't human. So this journey has definitely taught me to be comfortable in that. Anything from that to, I went to a recent event. I'll quickly tell you this story because I thought it was funny, about being honest in a group of women. It was a networking event, and I was sitting with a group of women I could see were very kind of shy and kept to themselves through the whole process. So I went to say hello, and one of the ladies said to me, we started talking about children, and she said, "You got 3 kids, but you look so young." And then I thought to myself, I could be honest now and open a conversation of honesty, or I can lead her to believe that that's true when she's going to walk away not really feeling great about anything. So I just turned around and said to her, "Thank you so much. I have an amazing Botox nurse." And they were like, "Oh my God, we can talk about that?" And I said, "Absolutely." And then this whole other conversation started. The body language dropped. Everyone was open. Everyone was asking for advice. And then another lady jumped in and goes, "Yeah, I have an amazing lady in Melbourne. You should come and see her." And just having the courage to be honest in a group setting, I think then sets the tone for everybody else. And again, like staff, it allows a safe space for them to share their stories. And so I could have lied to her and said, "Yeah, I'm so fresh. I had a great night's sleep," which is all not true. The truth was, and the truth is, I have an amazing Botox nurse and she makes sure I look like this so you can't see how tired I actually am. So I think that's a big one.
Yeah, no, I love that. I think honesty is really important. And I think we're all kind of sick of the filtered, perfect Instagram real life, right? That no one actually relates to that. And feedback I've had over the last couple of years. So I sold a business about 3 years ago and started using my name in my new business. And at first everyone was like, "Wow, that's, you're really up yourself to use your name." And I explained the story of why I chose my name over a brand, and it was actually a business reason for that. It's not comfortable to have to be in every photo for everything and use your personal name, but I did it, and I think it's been for the right reasons. But I had a lot of comments from people around me being a lot of people assuming that I was single and childless, and people would say things when I'd be on stage about, oh yeah, well, it's all good for you because you're single. And I'm like, I've been married for 18 years and I have 4 children, but all these assumptions from people. And so a lot of the feedback came that, oh, you only put professional photos of you and you don't talk about your children, and you don't talk about, I had a good friend who's in marketing be like, you need to actually talk about being a mum. And I was like, it feels funny for me showing photos of my children and talking about mum life. And it's what I live, but I'm not sure how professional that is and where those lines are. But I've learned that actually people want to just relate to another human, and it's not about being a perfect anything. It's actually about being an imperfect person who can still show up and support them. And it's fitted really nicely with that authenticness of the brand that I have, which is my name. That actually brand can be whatever I want it to be, and I can do whatever I want it to be because it's open. And it's been a challenge to kind of navigate talking and people's assumptions. So now I'm very much of the opinion of, I'm just going to continue to be me and share the bits that I'm comfortable to, and that changes over time, and not feel like I have to portray anything else, and find where those boundaries are as well as a mum and as a woman. It's a bit of a journey, I think, navigating through it all.
Can you share with me when you get comments like that? I get something similar sometimes from my parents, that it's easy for me because I have LGO. So how do you navigate? Because that really hurts. And I know they don't mean it. I know they're tired. I know they're just overstimulated. They're exhausted. But I sit there and I think, wow, if you could only see 10% of my journey or what's in my head, that is the last thing you would say. So how do you take that?
I guess I just try to reflect on it, and I just tell myself that I must make everything look really easy. I must just be really good at either masking or that, I must make things look easy. And I kind of tell myself the same things when I have a lot of people who copy things I do, or, emulate me. Some people copy my website almost exactly, or my branding. And I just go, it must be actually, people must think that I'm, okay then. And I must be doing a good job for them to even notice and to think that what I'm doing is okay. So I guess I try to use it as validation in a way, rather than be critical. And I used to hate when people would say, oh, you're so lucky, oh, you're so lucky that you do this. And I was thinking, there's nothing luck about it. I work 1 billion hours, but I just now play along and I go, actually, there is a lot of luck to it. I am grateful for the amazing opportunities that I had, and a lot of that is hard work, but some of it is synchronicity, and maybe that is, if you're a religious person, maybe that's God, or whatever else it might be. But I think there is a lot of luck to it, and if other people think I'm making things look really easy, then I guess that is kind of intended. Maybe that means that I've achieved in showing someone else that it's possible to do something, and try to look at it as a positive. It's hard. My first reaction isn't that. My first reaction is, God, if you only knew. But then my second reaction is, yeah, okay, I think I do kind of have it together. And it's my 20th year in business this year. And I think, well, if I haven't learned something in 20 years, there's probably a problem. So let's just acknowledge that I do some things okay. And, they feel that impression of me.
Tanya, I love that. So what I'm going to take away from that answer is that next time they give me that comment, I'm going to think, wow, maybe I show them that it is possible, and that's what they're going to take away from me.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Maybe. In the good moments. Not at the 3 a.m. mornings where you're juggling 5 billion things.
Yes.
The last question for you today is about how people can find out more about LGO Therapy Group and connect with you if they wanted to reach out.
So we have our social media platforms. We also have our website as well, so they can reach out through that. There's an option through there. With our foundation, we're actually having an event on the 1st of May. So that's going to be a luncheon to raise money, and we've got an incredible panel of powerhouse speakers, as I call them. So our theme for this year is resilience and impact. So every year for our lunch, we try to have a theme. And we've brought together sports elite, so people that are professional athletes, to talk about their resilience and then how the resilience has been able to help them give impact. So they could, anybody that's interested to find more out about either LGO or our foundation can find information on our platforms.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for your time today. It's been so lovely to chat with you.
Thank you so much. Have a wonderful afternoon.
Wasn't today's guest amazing? Imagine being in a room with over 100 women like her. That's our 2026 International Women's Day events, happening across Western Sydney, Gold Coast, Adelaide, and Perth this March. You'll meet women building businesses you want to learn from. Leaders are solving problems you're facing right now, and the kind of people who become your text at midnight support system. That's not networking, that's give to gain. Find your event at taniagomez.com.au. I'll be there, and I hope you will be too.